Hello, and thanks for joining me again today for Geezers of Gear, episode number 227. Today's podcast is brought to you by AVL Media Group, your premier North American distribution partner. As the exclusive U.S. distributors for Midas, Labgruppen, Lake, Tannoy, Clark Technique, TurboSound, Aston, Spotlight, Zero Ohm, and Wharfdale Pro, they are committed to developing long-term business relationships with their partners at every level by providing outstanding pre- and post-sale service and support. AVL Media Group, they are your go-to company for pro audio and lighting, your premier North American distribution partner. Visit their website, www.avlmediagroup.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by the Event Safety Alliance, ESA. Safety must always be an event professional's ride or die partner. The Event Safety Alliance, ESA, works tirelessly to advance the culture of safety across the event industry on behalf of audiences, artists, and those who do the hard work on their behalf. The Event Safety Alliance focus on the knowledge, behaviors, and guidances that provide the ability to plan and respond consistently, empowering event professionals of all stripes to identify and mitigate risks. ESA education, training, standards, and guidance, and the thought leadership is helping to shape safety at live events for this generation and the next. Become a member of the Event Safety Alliance and join thousands of event professionals from around the globe, creating a safer, more prosperous future for our industry. Advance your knowledge by becoming a member today at eventsafetyalliance.org. Hello, we are back. Episode number 227. And I say we're back because although we had podcasts launch, or at least one launch, I think we only had one this past week, but I was actually gone for a few days and I didn't record for a week. And that's been a first in a while. Sarah's got me slaving pretty good. And I was actually in Los Angeles for the first time since before COVID. I realized as I was landing there, I was like, wow, I haven't been here in a while. And, so of course, like everyone, I've heard all of the terrible stories about what LA is like right now. People defecating on sidewalks and sleeping on sidewalks and everything else. And while I believe that there is some of that going on, a lot of that going on, I wasn't downtown LA. I was actually in Northridge for meetings. So, I was recently invited to become part of a board of directors for a company. It's actually a private equity group who are buying up some companies, and this is the first one. And so the board meeting was last week, got to meet some incredible people and shared some knowledge both back and forth and really enjoyed the process. And if you are not on any boards, I recommend it. This isn't my first one, but it's actually, I think, the first one that I've been on outside of any of my companies. Outside of a board seat in a company that I owned a piece of, at least a small piece, if not all of. And so great experience. It's a great way to share your knowledge and benefit others with it in sort of a consulting kind of way, but it's a very hands-off, or I should say arm's length type of relationship or approach, something very different for me and very enjoyable experience. So I liked it. I actually enjoyed being back in LA, other than a few things. I mean, one, what the hell has happened to LAX? That place is a disaster. And Uber, oh my God. What happened was I had a car rental reserved and then the flight was late and I felt like I was going to actually be late because I was landing about 2 hours before the first board meeting. And I was thinking, I'm gonna be late for this thing if I go for the car rental. I'm just gonna cancel the car rental and grab an Uber. That'll be much quicker. Well, why didn't somebody tell me I was wrong? If you haven't been to LA recently, you don't just walk out the door of the airport and grab an Uber. First of all, I'm trying to book it, and I didn't know the process there because, again, I hadn't been there since, I don't know, 2018 or something. And so I'm trying to book it, and it kept saying, go outside and find a bus or something. And I'm like, what? I don't want a bus. I want an Uber. And it was just really confusing. It wouldn't book my Uber, basically, is what it came down to. And so finally I asked someone when I got outside, and they said, yeah, you got to go over there and get on that bus. And so I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on here? So it took like 10 minutes for the bus to come. So already I'm panicking because, now I've got like maybe an hour and 15 minutes or something to get to this meeting on time. And so this bus takes you to a parking lot that's, I don't know, 10 minutes from the airport, let's say. And you go to this parking lot and then you order your Uber. And so then it was raining, by the way. So I'm standing outside in this parking lot in the rain with my bag. And so I finally get an Uber ordered. And it takes them, it said 3 minutes, and it took like probably 15 minutes. And long story short, all in all, I ended up about 20 minutes late for the first board meeting. So I actually called in to Zoom from the car. And you can't necessarily blame politics or anything for that, but they got to fix that situation. The whole Uber thing is so broken. And the Uber driver was just complaining like crazy, not just because of this parking lot situation, but also because I didn't realize this, but I complained because here was another thing. Inside the airport, it said that my Uber ride was going to be $80. Then I kept trying to book it and it wouldn't book it. So I tried 5 minutes later and it was $82. I tried 5 minutes later, it was $86. Well, by the time I got in the car, it was $99. And so I said this to the driver. I'm like, I'm trying to book it and it was $80 and now it's $99. It's $20 more. It's kind of a ripoff. And he goes, yeah, the company is ripping off the customers and the drivers at this point. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, do you know out of that $99, guess what I get? And I said, I don't know, 80. Like I'm thinking Uber takes 20%, maybe 25%, the pigs that they are. Uber takes 60% and the driver gets 40. I mean, can you even believe that? That to me, like I own and operate a marketplace and we take 7%. And here's Uber taking 60% of the money from the driver for the fact that they run the platform. To me, that's just opening a door to competitors, to another system, because there's no way that system is sustainable. When the company is taking 60% of the money from the driver, that to me just isn't sustainable. So anyways, got to the meeting. Meetings were great. Got back. My flight was actually on time and it was an awesome flight back. The airport, I don't know. It's so big, so congested, so much traffic. You can't get an Uber. Like that to me is just broken. I go to lots of other big cities too, New York and Chicago and Atlanta, etc. I've never had this much trouble getting an Uber. It was crazy. So what else did I want to mention? Nothing really. So today's guest is a gentleman named Paul Streitz. So many of you will know him. Hopefully most of you will know him. Paul's a great guy, been around for a long time. And I'm going to read you his bio here quickly. So Paul established himself as an industry visionary, one of the early leaders in fiber optic lighting solutions, and a go-to source for high-tech, high-touch, creative lighting solutions, working with high-profile jobs, including the Grammy Awards, Broadway shows, and major concert tours. After selling his first company in 2007, Paul reinvented himself as a consultant, author, and motivational speaker. He wrote a book called Blue Collar Buddha, based on winning wisdom gained on a journey from flight attendant to cancer survivor, and finally, entrepreneurial millionaire. Very interesting dude. and someone who I think you'll quite enjoy. So here you go. Paul Streitz. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How you doing, Marcel?
I'm doing all right. I feel like we just had a whole conversation before the conversation.
We did. We had the
Yeah,
warm up
we did. And
pregame.
it was fun. We got into all the things that we're not allowed to talk about now that we're actually on air and recording. So,
So I got to
yeah.
keep the edit button good. Okay, I'll behave.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's more me and sometimes Sarah. Sarah gets really upset when she hears us say bad things. So, you know, she's got the edit button. She's got the beep button
The 3 second delay.
yeah. Fortunately, we don't deal with any of that shit. So,
That's right.
yeah, the nice thing about podcasting is, I leave it up to the guest. Whatever the guest is comfortable talking about, or whatever language they want to use, or whatever stories they want to tell, I typically take the approach of, as long as nobody gets hurt outside of the two of us, this little group, uh, you know, everything's fair game. I don't like when people talk shit about other people. Like, we'll generally either avoid that or edit it out later. We
Uh,
try not to get too political, even though I
Make a
had
note.
preach on
Do
last
not
week.
make a note. Do not talk bad about Gordon. Okay.
Uh, no, Gordon is an exception. I was going to read you the exceptions next. Gordon or anyone I dislike is fair game completely.
So Ferrari bar is still okay
Yeah, there you go.
in
Ferrari bar
in
and the
London.
Elvis card. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That'll
You've
work.
you've met Elvis a few times at very late moments of the evening in very suspect places, I guess.
I think so. Yeah. It's always an adventure.
Yeah. Gord with that card was hilarious. I mean, it was just, I don't even know where to start on that story because there's been so many epic adventures with Gord and Elvis. And yeah, I mean, what a fun dude.
Always the life of the party.
Yeah. So, first of all, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you coming. And I
Yeah.
saw you last summer, which was fun. I hadn't seen you in years. And I just happened to be driving through Minnesota. And I'm like, who the hell do I know in Minnesota? And I knew two people. And I called one of them on the way to Canada and then called you on the way back. And so, yeah, that was fun.
It's so weird that literally though you were driving under a mile. Matter of fact, you could see the road you were on from our office and our warehouse.
That's
I mean, you were
crazy.
literally. I could, if I had a slingshot, I could have got your car. I mean, it's
Well, I
that
appreciate
close.
if you
So
didn't. I
yeah,
appreciate if you didn't do that.
but
That
it
would
was kind of
suck.
cool.
Yeah. No, it was nice to see you. With Zoom and all of this stuff, this virtual stuff, you forget how long it's been. Like, I was talking in the little intro here about, I was in LA last week and I'm landing in LA and I'm thinking, I haven't been here in like 6 years, really. And I used to go to LA almost weekly when I was with Martin. So, it's just weird. Like, I mean, I've got really good friends that I'll be like, I haven't seen you in 10 years, and it's like Wiseman. I had dinner with John Wiseman a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I haven't seen you in person in probably 5 years, and we're really close friends. So it's weird. I think for sure I
Yeah,
get carried away on this virtual thing.
yeah. I need to do more of it and probably keep up with a lot of my let's say entertainment industry friends. And I've been meaning to go to LDI and I just haven't done it. You get busy doing what you're doing now,
Yeah,
and
I
you
get
don't
it.
forget about what you used to do, and you think about all those moments, but you just get caught up in what you're currently doing. And unfortunately, I think I need to uh, take some take some time, go to LDI, next year, and
Well, and
go say hi to everybody.
like me, you're a small business owner, and at the end of the day, you look at it and you go, "It's 10 grand, no matter how I slice it." And do I really need to spend 10 grand to go to another trade show that I've been to 25 years in a row or whatever? And so sometimes it's easy to brush it off. But I'll tell you what, this past year, LDI, I didn't go, and I was dying. Like, during the show, I'm watching everybody's posts and stuff, and I'm like, God damn it, I should have gone. I was so
I
bummed I didn't
know,
go.
and I see them. I'm still friends with so many people, and you
Yeah.
see their posts, and I'm like, oh, I need to go. And then I try to. I try to tell people that are around me what it's like, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. It's a crazy industry.
Well,
We're getting a
let's
little
both go
older.
this
We're
year.
not out.
Let's both go
What?
this
Yeah,
year.
we should. We really
Yeah.
should, because I remember back in the day. I mean, literally, I'd be rolling in from going out in
Yeah.
Vegas, and it's 6 a.m. and I'm just showering and going, okay, I hope all the partying stink is off me, and
Yeah.
showing up in my booth going, I hope
Yeah.
people show up, and if they don't, I'll go sleep.
Well, I'll tell you. So you were probably out with him actually, but going back to Gord, one time in Orlando, I which is weird because Vegas you'd understand, but Orlando not so much. But Orlando, I go down for breakfast because I've got a sales meeting at the booth that I'm doing. And so it's like probably 7:30 in the morning or something, a little early to be going to the LDI show. But I'm down in the hotel breakfast restaurant, and I walk in to get breakfast with, I don't know, one of my employees or something, and Gord is sitting there eating steak and eggs. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing up already? And he's like, oh, I'm just getting in, mate. you know, Eating steak and eggs at like 7:30 in the morning.
And what's
Yeah.
even worse is his body time. He's had a really long day because his body time is like 6 hours ahead. So it's
Yeah, I
like noon
know.
for him.
Knucklehead.
Oh, he's a lot of fun. He's
I
gonna
love
hear
it.
this and laugh. That's great.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love the guy. I mean, he's such a funny guy and a wonderful guy, and he hugs better. Like people who hug like that, you always know they're real genuine people, People who hug
Yeah.
and then kind of lean their face into yours, it's like, okay, that guy's a lovely guy, right? And he's
Yeah.
just one of them. He's one of them
Yeah.
guys. So, yeah, but I agree with you on the whole LDI thing. I have to do the same thing and just make sure, at our age, like you said, like none of us is going to live forever. And our friends, in my case, I know not most, I will say a lot of my friends in the industry probably haven't paid well enough attention to their health. And, I keep seeing people on Facebook and stuff. Did you hear so and so is gone? And I'm like, no way.
I know.
No way, not him. And so, yeah, you gotta see those people that matter, as often as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other side of this too is one of the reasons why I don't think I go to LDI is, I think you could take me out of the entertainment business, but you can't.
Yeah.
Or what's the old adage?
Yeah.
I'm still there, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go there and get ideas for fixtures. And me, I'm a manufacturer at heart.
Yeah.
I'm going to start. I think I could do this, and now I get way off track of what I'm doing now, and
Yeah.
it'll just But I'm going to go. We'll go. We're going to have to make it an effort to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to it. And I'm not driving up to Canada this year because I learned my lesson last year, but maybe we'll try and figure out how to get together over the summer because I'll be at my house in Canada and you're not that far away. So, maybe we'll figure out a fishing trip or something.
That would be awesome. It's
Yeah.
really good fishing here, by the ways. And yeah, well, I shouldn't say that. You're in Canada. The fishing's
Yeah.
great there,
Yeah.
but good fishing here as well. Also, I know I made it to Fort Myers for a little while, but it was a quick trip.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there more often
Yeah.
next
In the winter.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm looking for a winter place there.
Yeah.
I can still run my business and be down there during the cold months. So
You got to hurry
we'll
up
have plenty of time.
before the prices double again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's crazy what these, especially New Yorkers that are coming in with just pockets full of cash and buying everything up. It's wild what's happening to the pricing. Nuts.
It's crazy.
If you go to the small towns and stuff, though, generally you're okay. I don't know what Fort Myers is like, but certainly this coast, like I'm in Palm Beach, and the prices are, more than double what they were just a couple of years ago. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So
Fort Myers still isn't too bad.
yeah. I like to jump into the Wayback Machine and figure out how people got going. And I was thinking about it before getting on this podcast. And, from my viewpoint, your life started probably about midway through Advanced Lighting. Like I met you, you were at Advanced, and I think you were just getting into the fiber optic thing, which is a whole story that I want to get into as well. But, what led you usually it's something really bad happened in life, um, or somebody was a musician and couldn't make it as a musician, or they were a DJ and couldn't make it as a DJ, and they end up in the lighting business. So how did that go for you?
Well, I actually was a flight attendant. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but my background with my father was a labor union organizer, auto mechanic at first, and it was like union this, union that, and I wanted to see the world and travel. I wasn't super academic, so college wasn't my thing. I went into the military, got out, and I thought, what can actually, I was selling cars for an uncle of mine, and this super hot chick walks in with her husband who didn't look like he could have that girl. And she goes to the bathroom. I go, dude, how did you score this girl? And he says, oh, I'm the
As you do.
parking manager. I'm the parking manager at the airport at MSP, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And she's a flight attendant. So I see her all the time. And I asked her out. I go, wow, now you're married and everything? Yeah. So he tells her this when she comes back, and she says, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to see the world. She goes, and I want to meet good looking girls like you. She goes, well, why don't you become a flight attendant? I said, well, I don't know. She goes, I tell you what, I'm not going to buy the car unless you fill out this application. When they come,
Damn.
or when I come
Pushy.
back in, I won't close on it. She brought an application in. I filled it out, and 3 weeks later, I was in Dallas, Texas, training at American Airlines. And
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy, and I just totally knew that it was the right move for me. I stepped out, if you will, from home and warmer weather and all sorts of cool stuff. And it's a big city, and amongst a very large airline with a lot of flight attendants was good.
Yeah.
And
Probably a pretty good way to meet girls too, I'm guessing.
oh man, it was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
American Airlines has a whole campus. It's massive. Swimming pool, nightclub and bar, game room, and they're
What?
all dorms, and that's where they train. So literally I could go to class, drink, and go to the pool in like no time. It was just you're staying in dorms right there in their campus. We called it the Charm Farm, and and it
I
was
get it.
great. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Why aren't more guys doing this that are straight? And
Yeah.
I got it, and it was fine. So yeah, I went through that and was probably 6 months into my flying. I'm in Reno, Nevada, and I'm on a layover, and I'm at the oh man, I think the El Dorado Hotel Casino. And I look, and they're doing this cool thing in like the ceiling in a restaurant that was closed down, like they were remodeling or something. And they were like doing shooting stars and all these little things. So I went underneath the do not enter tape and tugged on a guy's shorts and go, hey man, what are you doing? He goes, oh, it startled him. And he goes, this is my father's company. And we're just a small little lighting company here in Reno. And we, this is a side hustle. And he didn't use the word side hustle then, but it's a side gig for us. And we create these stars and we do these little things out of fiber optics. I go, well, hey, I'm a flight attendant. Can I have a job? I could do this in Dallas or wherever I fly to. And he says, you got to call my dad. So I did. And I ended up working for him for free, for just a commission, but
Yeah.
I didn't know at all what I was doing. I mean, I was like so green. So I said, I'm going to take a couple months off from flying. You can do that. And I went up in Reno, stayed with them, and I learned how they were doing what they were doing. And so I took that back and I knocked on, like the little open signs is open and fiber optic, which changes color, and video stores, and, any place. And I had 6 months later, I got no sales. I was like, oh man, and maybe this isn't for me, and maybe I'm not good at this, and, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I had this flight, and this guy was in first class. It was often for me when I met people in first class, I'd say stuff like, "Why are you sitting here and not in coach?" And they look kind of weird at you. So, well, because I paid for it or I got upgraded. And I go, no, no, no. Why are you here instead of coach? Like, what did you do right in your life? What are you doing that puts
Yeah.
you here?
Yeah.
And everybody likes to tell their story, and I get all these stories. Well, I did that to one guy. I think his name was Farshad. He's a cool guy, engineer, and he worked for Showbiz Chuck E. Cheese Pizza. And he says, I'm the show engineer for Showbiz Chuck E. Cheese Pizza. I go, what's that? And he goes, well, all the animatronics and all that, I'm in charge of that. I design it, we engineer it. I said, hey, what if I was to put, and he showed me pictures. I said, what if I was to put stars behind your characters? Well, that'd be really cool. I said, well, I think I could do that. Well, what do you mean? You're a flight attendant. I told him that my side gig and how I could not find any business. Like, I knocked on everybody's door, and he goes, well, you're doing it wrong. He says, they've already spent their money and the store's open. They need to make money now. You got to get people in the planning process when they have a budget to spend. I went, oh, okay. And he goes, now we're always updating our stage and our effects. So why don't you come by? So I came by, and I flew up to Reno. I made a little sample fiber optic curtain. And I'll never forget this. I show up there, and I had this little rinky-dinky light source with a wheel on it, and hung it up in his office. And he goes, this is great. He says, we have 1,100 stores, and I can see this in every store. I said, great.
Damn.
And he goes, but there's one thing. Your light source looks a little rinky dinky, and it's fine because it's off stage and everything, but I need to know whether or not this thing will survive. If in 6 months it's still working, we'll do a rollout of like 200 stores at a time. And I went, okay. So that happens in about 3 months, maybe 4 months into me waiting and not having any success anywhere else except for being a flight attendant. I end up feeling a lump on my testicle. And I went, oh shit, this is something weird, and I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to go fly home and see my urologist about this. I went and saw my urologist, and he's like an old guy, old family, next to retirement. You just got an infection, no big deal. Okay, gave me antibiotics. Okay. So then I flying again, and about another month later, I fly with this guy, and I credited him in my book. I wrote a book later, and his name was Joey English, and he had testicular cancer. And I said, how'd you find out? And he said, well, I went in, they gave me an ultrasound, and the results were there. I said, well, I'm going, why didn't my doctor give me an ultrasound? I'm thinking. So the lump was still there, so I called back, and I go in, and that doctor didn't retire. I must have been his last patient.
Oh,
and
God.
one of his associates took over. His name was Dr. Abraham Kern, and super nice guy. And right away, I didn't even see him. He says, I read your file. I'm going to have you go across the street to the hospital and have an ultrasound, which is Metropolitan Medical Center, big hospital downtown Minneapolis. And so I said, okay. So I go there, and some young guy that's, 21 years old, just out of ultrasound school, is like, okay. And, I'm like, this is kind of awkward because he's ultrasounding, obviously, that area. And then all of a sudden, some guy, maybe about 30, comes in with a few initials on his, apron. And it looks like it says empty. And then after that, a really older guy comes in with a lot of initials. And I'm like, this can't be good. And the guy's, oh no, it's all good. Just we like to double check our work, and and I go, okay, great. Well, I gotta go. I got a flight to catch at like 2. And he goes, so this older guy says to me, you have across the street is your doctor's office. You can go right under the tunnel of the road and just bring him this film. And then you can be on your way, no big deal. It just makes it easier when I have to have somebody run it over. I go, okay. So I go into the doctor's office, and I open a door, and there's a waiting room, and the nurse, it's like they had cameras that saw me coming. She takes me, I'm opening the door, she's standing right there. She puts me in some posh office with all the doctor's degrees and all that. And I go, oh, this isn't good. The doctor comes back in and says, we got you scheduled for surgery at 7 a.m. in the morning. I says, what do you mean 7 a.m.? I got a flight I'm going on a trip. No, you got a tumor, and it's 90% or something like that is mostly likely cancer. And I'm now, you think I'm really white now from the winter. I was really white. And he says, hey, these are really curable, and don't get excited. And I'm all by myself, and I'm like, what the hell? So I'm like, okay, I got to make calls. So I call my girlfriend and say, I'm not coming. Call the American Airlines, let them know what's going on. She books a flight to come up, and then I call my dad, and my dad lived in Wisconsin on the lake at the time, but he worked in Minneapolis. It's right on the border,
Yeah.
and he happened to be really close, and so he came and got me because I was taking taxis, and it was actually one of the most beautiful moments I have ever had with my father. And get into that later, but so long story short, I ended up having cancer, going through treatment, and when I was done with my treatment, I got home and I couldn't fly quite yet. Excuse me, and it it was my I had a fax machine because that's what we used back then. And it went off, and it never went off because I never got orders from my fiber optic thing. And here come like a $350,000 order, and the end of it, it said it's been 6 months.
What?
So I'm like, wow, I just got done with cancer, and it's been 6 months, and I got the first 200 stores order or whatever. I'm like, this is great because I cut a deal where I made a 15% commission. And I'm like, wow, this is great. So now how can I, not go back to work for a little while so I can enjoy this and get
Moment.
things going.
Yeah.
So I fly to Reno, and I say, we got to roll this out, man, and we did, and we got really good at it. And we
So
started completing orders.
hang on a second though. So going back to the cancer thing. So like it was that easy to get it gone?
No, I mean, they did what they call an orchiectomy, and they
That
removed
sounds
the
painful.
test. Yeah, yeah, it was. They removed it, and then I had radiation treatment all throughout my body um, for 30 days, and it was emotional. I mean, it's nothing that, especially as a young person, it's like this is crazy. I'm
Yeah.
27, I think, at the time, and it was crazy. I
Is
mean,
there
there's
is
some
there a
moments.
cause, or is it just you're on the dartboard and it was your turn?
There's some thoughts back in the I was born in 63, so back in those days I was my mother's third child she had, and they had developed, I think, a drug that helped with morning sickness, and they're saying that could be the cause, but
Huh.
also undescended testicles. So a lot of times when boys are born, their testicles are not descended, so they force them down, and they found that that can cause problems, but I don't think they really know.
Yeah, like most things. I mean, it's crazy that it's 2024 and there's still so many of those mysteries, medical mysteries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
know
incredible.
it was a life-changing thing for me.
No kidding.
I made a little bit of money with this commission, and I knew that, okay, I know my approach. I got to go to the planning stages and not something that's already done. I
Yeah,
became more involved with the company I was working for,
yeah,
and then Euro Disney started to happen, and the owner of the company, super nice guy, but and really had dreams and visions, but he didn't have solutions. And I guess I was so stupid I didn't know that there wasn't a solution. I just,
yeah.
ho hum. And he said, "Well, the way the French government said you can't work on Euro Disney unless you're a French company." And I go, "Well, we had did some stuff with Disney USA in between all this I didn't mention, but." And I go, "They don't have all the technology yet. I mean, what special effects for Disney is a big deal." I said, "That can't be true." "No, it is. Read it here." I said, "No, okay, it says in affiliation or partnership too." I said, "I'll fly out to France. I could fly for free. I'll fly out to France and I'll just go find a partner." And
Yeah.
he laughed. He says, "There's no way." So I went out there on my own dime, and I found some French-speaking flight attendant friend of mine that was over there, and so I said, "Find me lighting companies," and we called a few, and they were like, "Whatever, screw off," and found this one that was very old, been around for years, very posh. They were extremely rich. They had almost a whole block right off the Champs Elysees with like a
Jesus.
staff of 13 servants. And somehow I got lucky. We met the main guy. He had a kid that was a little bit younger than me, but similar age. And he wanted him to venture off into a little project and learn business. We signed a partnership and we did a shitload of work with Euro Disney. And it was great, and I made a lot of money. And so then finally, the
So
people of the
hang on a
company,
sec. How did that partnership work? Was it just like some kind of a profit share or something? Like you guys do
yeah,
this part of the work, we'll do this part of the work, we'll split it
they
here.
we brought in the guy that I tugged on the pants was the son of the owner of the company. So he lived in they got an apartment, lived in La Défense, which is a little ways away from Champs Elysees. If you keep
Hmm.
going more financial district, and so we had like a company apartment there, and he moved there for like 6 months,
Oh,
and he taught the French people how to do what we needed to do, and we split the profit.
ah, cool.
It was great. It
Yeah.
was great. It was about a year and a half long project, and we made money, and
I
I
love that
learned a lot about.
entrepreneurial. I love the entrepreneurial approach though. Like keep telling me how I can't do it, and let me go
And,
find a simple way to get this done, you know?
and the funny thing is, Marcel, I don't even think I thought that deep. I just didn't know that. Well, what do you mean this is hard? Now I look at something I want to do, and I think of every reason why it wouldn't work, and
Yeah.
I have too much experience, good and bad. Well, back then I was just like, well, what do you mean you can't do this? Why can't you? And
Hmm.
so I think that really helped me there.
Yeah.
And so we did that project, and then I was working on I think it was called Spectral Magic Parade for Disney in Orlando, which was a nighttime parade, and we were going to do a bunch of floats. And the owners of this company said, I mean, they did like 100,000, 110,000 before they saw me. And after the 6 months that I went through trying to figure out how I'm going to sell this stuff, also we're doing, a million, million four, $2 million. So they said, well, you should be part owner of the company. And I thought, wow, this is great. I'm going to own a company that's doing something. And so they gave me a small percentage. I think it was like 15%. And now we're starting to do trade shows and try to get ourselves out there. I think we did the IPPA, which is the Indian
IAPA, IAPPA.
IAPA, yeah, in Orlando. And that's always around LDI. I never thought about LDI, but I'd see it going on because it was around the same time frame back then. And so what happened was I did the show, or excuse me, I did these shows, and we were working on Disney, and they gave me part ownership, and I had probably $30,000 racked up on my credit card.
Yeah.
Because they would always pay me, and then the owner started making money and bought himself some nice shit, and next thing you know, they can't pay me. And next thing
Ugh.
you know, he says, "Well, you're an owner now. That sometimes happens." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. I'm not taking any money, only commissions, and you pay my expenses, not even my sales expenses, but trade show stuff like that." Well, it's just the way it works. He left me high and dry, and I ended up leaving that company. Got upset, and I don't even know what I really owned. I think it was just words that I owned a piece of it,
Yeah.
and I had to work my way to pay off that 30 grand debt because, of course, I was young and dumb and spent the money I made on commissions. So
Yeah.
took that and basically started my own company in the living room of my townhouse,
Yeah.
and we were
And you were
still
still in
building.
Dallas at this time, or you were back in Minnesota?
Nope, Dallas. Yeah, this is still
Okay.
Dallas,
Yeah.
and I was still building some curtains. I got the business away from them to come to me for showbiz pizza, and so building a few curtains here and there, and I didn't have enough room, and I really wasn't set up, didn't have any labor except for myself and the girlfriend I was dating at the time. And but I made some profit, bought more materials, made some profit, bought more materials. Next thing you know, I went from having no inventory, and I had maybe $30,000. And then TPR, Tom Fay, called me and wanted a fiber optic curtain for, I don't even know who, Broadway show or something. So I built that and made some money. And then my first taste of real entertainment was Miller Lite. This is going so far. Do you remember Andy Akers
No.
in Nashville, Tennessee? I believe that's what's coming up. I think he had a Miller Lite tour, and he said that they want to make this curtain out of fiber optics, and I said, well, I can do it. And it was a whole logo. I mean, it was really detailed. I'd never done that, but I'm like, wow, I could do it. And so that was a big job, and we did it, and that was my first taste of live entertainment. And I said, I got to do more of this. And we did Garth Brooks, and then it just grew from there. But one of our problems was um, this light source. People understand fiber optics, you're piping light. And we didn't have anything intelligent. It was just either a projection lamp or mercury vapor, and we'd light it up and put colored filters in front of it. But there was no intelligence to it when live entertainment needed intelligence. So then I think I saw the Martin people. I went to the LDI show or something, and went in the Martin booth, and I saw the Pro 400. And of course, it wasn't set up for fiber optics, but I said, well, I can make that work. So I grabbed one, made an adapter, and that's when really the company started to take off. We shitload of Pro 400 sales, and then it just exponentially grew. We started doing a lot of live entertainment, a lot of restaurants and bars and casinos.
So I was with Martin, of course, at that time, and I think you very quickly became the largest customer for Pro 400s in the world because, like somebody told me one time, anything with professional in the name usually isn't. Or any company with professional in the name usually isn't. The Pro 400 wasn't very pro. It was kind of a hokey fixture, but at the time, I mean, there was nothing to really compare it to. The track spot came out as an illuminator, a fiber optic illuminator, and was cool, but still the Pro 400 had a lot longer lamp life. It had a 2,000-hour lamp life, where the track spot had like a 20-hour lamp life. So
it worked really, really well. And here's the interesting thing. We bought a certain amount of them, but we created an opportunity for Martin.
Created an industry. Yeah.
And other people bought them that weren't even our customers and bought our adapters. We were making hundreds and hundreds of adapters for Pro 400s.
Yeah.
And all over the world they went to, and they came out of us, which was cool. Martin could have hammered that flat, and they didn't. They were very respectful. And then we started to, this is actually a funny story. I was at LDI show with my girlfriend. It might have been a different one than the one I talked to before, but
it happens.
And we're checking into the Peabody Hotel, and what was his name? Christian.
Yeah, him.
He's checking in with his wife, and I'm checking in with my girlfriend, and he kind of knew who I was a little bit.
I was already gone, by the way. Oh, you mean Christian, the American CEO guy? I left when they put him in. Christian left.
Yeah, you left after Peter Johansson, right?
I left right before he was gone. So I left, and then he got in some trouble. And,
yes.
And
they named the company Martin spelled backwards, which was funny. So anyways, what happened was I hear them saying, oh, you're the only guest up at the top floor, which is like 2 suites or something like that. And I'm hearing this, and I go, oh, well, I really want to get closer to this company because there's an opportunity, because at that time there was an interest in maybe buying. We also made and jacketed fiber optic cable as well. So we weren't selling any of that to Martin or through Martin, and Martin's worldwide. So I leaned over. I said, how much for an upgrade to the top floor? She told me. I said, I'll take it. My girlfriend looks at me like, dude, you crazy? Like, that's an extra $2,000 or whatever. And, I wasn't super rich. And I said, just shut up, And every day, I swear, at least twice a day, we shared the elevator. And I said, she just started talking to his wife or whoever, and they became friends, and I became friends with him. And one day, he's like, tell me exactly what you do, because I didn't tell him. I said, I'm here for the show, no big deal. I said, well, we do fiber optics, and we do, oh, you're the ones of the Pro 400s. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, I want to talk to you. We think that we should do something more with this. It's selling a lot of our lights. I said, okay, great. So I sent them a proposal, and they ordered a shitload of fiber optic cable without even asking me suggestions, what should I order? And which I was okay, but I wanted Martin to be successful. Right. And they weren't super successful in selling raw fiber optic cable and that kind of stuff. But the relationship was good, because then we ended up hiring Ricardo Poulsen, who was one of their salesmen we had an office in Denmark then, and Ricardo, kind of sold advanced lighting systems in Europe. And it just made us grow, made us bigger in the industry than probably we really were.
Yeah.
It got our name out there, and it was really good. And I couldn't complain, but I knew I needed also during this time to diversify.
Yeah.
So
No, but
LEDs
I mean,
started coming.
again, I love the approach, like that whole, I never realized back then, certainly, that you were this entrepreneurial, like, because I've
I
always
didn't
thought
either.
like that, by the way, and not very many people in our industry do. Most people in our industry are really more doers. Like they're very good lighting people, or they're very good. I was never a lighting guy. I was just always, a very entrepreneurial thinker who said, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a way to sell more of this or whatever it was. So,
You know what? I think some of that, Marcel, for me, came out of desperation.
me too.
I mean, and also I'm not a lighting guy. I mean, I really am not. I mean, I didn't go to
Yeah.
school for lighting. I barely graduated high school, not because I was a bad kid. I struggled academically. But what I learned, yeah, I hear you, man. And what I learned was that, how do I say this? A lot of times, if you say an insecurity you have, you think that you're the only one that has it.
Yeah.
But when you're open about it, and this is something I learned, we can maybe talk about when we get into the book, but I learned that when I start being open about how I really feel or what's really going on, there's shitloads of people like, me too.
Yeah.
And I
It's true.
realized that we're not really that different. And so I started to come into myself and my talents as probably being more of a relationship person
Yeah.
than a salesman. I'm never I to this day, if I know my product isn't right or not perfect for the customer, I tell them. I say this
Yeah.
guy's got a better widget for you, but remember me when you needed something else because I'll give you the truth. I'll give you the real
Yeah.
answer.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's gotten me a lot further in life than
No,
trying to
I think
cram something down somebody's throat.
in some weird way, you and I have followed very similar paths, both from the lack of any lighting education whatsoever. I never toured. I know a lot of touring people, but I never toured. And, you know, to this day, I still barely know how to connect two lights together. So,
Well, I will tell you, I've become very almost every product we have now, I'm at least 50 to 60% of the design. I've
yeah,
become that guy because we were a manufacturer, right? I mean, advanced lighting systems was we made stuff, so now we're doing curtains and we're doing them in a big way.
yeah,
And I was like, we got to grow, something's got to change. And so we started making fixtures back in the, 98, 99. We made a fixture that, hell, you could buy them now for probably $50, but we were selling them for 5 to 6 grand for live entertainment. And they worked really well. And that was just what was cool about it. And it's just that the technology's come so far, it's a lot less expensive. But that was, me saying, listening to the customers and what they want. And then
hmm
going with our engineer, Bill Little, and saying, hey, how can we do this? And he'd come up with ideas. I'd come up with ideas. And in the end, we had a pretty cool fixture.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really cool. So you were going to get into LED here. You were just talking about, then LED came out, which obviously changed everything for everyone in a sense.
It did. I mean, we started, before, we transitioned from doing pizza places to some live entertainment and shows and movies and anywhere they needed stars to now we started doing color washing and the word architainment came out.
Yeah,
Probably remember that. And we were knee deep in it. I mean, we started before, the color kinetics and all that, but limited maybe by my education and financial savviness to raise money. And we just made product and sold it at a profit and, grew it that way organically. And, but we did some really cool stuff, developed our own drivers. Nobody was doing that back then. We
yeah,
all DMX and we did it all ourselves. And in
mm,
that process, um, we were growing the company and selling to, I mean, eventually we sold a bunch of stuff to, Cirque du Soleil and the Letterman show and Saturday Night Live. And again, all the live entertainment. But now you got hotels like the W Hotel, they got the real cool atmosphere. And now we started doing a lot of high-end clubs, and this is really cool. So we started breaking out into that, and again, now we had a rep network because some of that gets sold through some reps, and we had the entertainment distributors, and it kind of crossed over. It was really hard to manage, but we started getting.
You know what's really funny is I don't remember exactly what year, but I was friends with Steve Watts at AVR Abstract, and he came out with that downlight, that little MR16 downlight with a color wheel in front of it. And I saw that thing, and I was doing lots and lots of club stuff at the time, selling lots of club stuff. And I said, hey, let me import this thing into the United States and sell it in the US. And he said, yeah, sure, why not? And, the problem was he promised me that it was UL, and it never was to the moment I stopped selling them. But
Yeah.
so that was like early 2000s, I think. And very quickly, we went from an MR16 with a color wheel in front of it to a multicolor, color-changing LED downlight, like instantly. And I sold thousands of those, the MR16 ones. And I was like, okay, this is the end of the earth. Like this is the cat's meow. Everybody's going to buy these. And then all of a sudden, it happened so quickly that LEDs just completely took over. Right around the time that you're talking about.
Yeah, and as soon as the supply chain and the market grew, your cost just went, your cost went down like this, and the supply went up like this. So we were able to start making these things at reasonable prices.
Yeah.
But if you got a super expensive product that does something really cool, the best industry to put it in is either medical or entertainment, because a lot of times in entertainment, the budgets are, we don't care, we want this effect. And so you're able to grow it that way and then go into more of a mass market where we are now. You're buying lights for your house that could, work with the Philips Hue, So
yeah. Well, plus medical and entertainment, I think, share this passion and optimism for new technology, and curiosity for new technology, where a lot of industries are like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Entertainment always wants the next thing, and we're willing to pay for it, like you said.
I mean, you go back to, I think we're similar age.
Yeah.
You go back, and I remember in the 70s, you imagine going to a Pink Floyd concert with no lights?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crazy, huh?
I mean, it's such an important part. Or if you ever turned the sound off and watching a movie, something like Top Gun, or something that's so action related, you need the sound with it, and it all is part of the experience. And that's where entertainment is just so cool. And I love it still. But moving along, we started doing a lot of fixtures, and then I got in the way of one of my competitors in the fiber optic world that was also trying to get into architainment, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse to merge the company, which they were public. Brett Kingston, yeah. And so we merged the company.
What were they called originally? Supervision, right?
Yeah.
I remember they did something interesting because Color Kinetics was running around threatening everybody with lawyers and stuff, right? And I did something really interesting, tooting my own horn, because I was bringing in AVR LED stuff now, right? Because Steve Watts was really early on LED stuff too. And so I was bringing in some of his product, and all of the European companies who were creating LED product wanted nothing to do with the US because, Color Kinetics is going to sue us, because they had lawyers walking around LDI and Lightfair and stuff.
It was horrible.
And it was horrible. They wanted to Betamax the industry, basically. We are doing this by ourselves. Nobody else can touch it. And so initially they didn't even want a license. And then they went, hey, we can make some money here. So they opened up very few licenses, but I don't know if you ever saw their early licensing agreements. Like, you couldn't be in any of their competitive industries, which was pretty much everything, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did is I went to them and I said, look, I'm an importer. I want to be able to import European products, and I believe it's good for you to have some competition. However, you should make some money. So I said, instead of getting, pieces of all of these different companies or blocking them and scaring the shit out of them from coming here. Take a piece and let them come in. And they're all small companies. And so I negotiated a deal with them that was basically I would pay them, and I can't remember the exact percentages, otherwise I would actually share it, but it wasn't huge. It was maybe 6% or something of my revenue on these imported products. I'll just pay you a blanket fee on all of the sales. And so regardless of where it comes from, who it comes from, whatever, you're going to get a fee from me. And they
Fair.
loved that idea. And so then Brett came along, and Brett started challenging their patents and went around to any companies, mine was one of them, who were in the LED space and said, hey, give us X amount of dollars towards our legal fees because we're going to go fight the good fight. And I think I gave him a few grand or something initially, but then I didn't really agree with his approach on everything, let's say. So I kind of backed away from that. And yeah. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
What I remember in that was actually Color Kinetics was pursuing Supervision, and Supervision then was trying to line up a defense of we've been RGBing lights since halogen bulbs, and to be honest with you, knowing what I know and a much deeper conversation, I don't know how the hell they won that the way they won it. But they did, and Brett tried to line up, people all over the world to help with this defense, which if he had won would have been great for all of us guys that were trying to do RGB fixtures. Yeah, but
Color Kinetics had something, they had somebody on the payroll or something. I don't know what they had going on, but they had something going on because, do you know Fausto from Comar? Fausto's been a lighting engineer. He's been a lighting engineer since the 70s. Very, very smart guy. And he said, they've got a patent on pulse width modulation to control the LEDs. He said, I studied that in textbooks in the 60s and 70s. Like, that's been around a very, very long time. How did they get a patent on it, So, yeah, it was pretty incredible how the things they got away with early on there.
That changed a lot. We never signed a license agreement, but we never got big enough to get in the way.
Yeah.
We know that they dropped in our booth and they came and talked to us, and we say, we're just a fiber optic company, and we do a little bit of this, we dabble, and they just, we were probably far enough down the list it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And then what happened though, ironically, was, as we were alluding to earlier, is we started getting in the way of Supervision big time on mixing fiber optic and LED together. And so they made me an offer I couldn't refuse of merging the company into Supervision. And then at that time they had a president of the company. Brett was just on the board. And I wasn't used to that kind of atmosphere. I'm, again, more entrepreneurial. Yeah. And the guy that was the president of the company was never, as far as I know, he never owned a company.
Yeah.
And so he ran it like, Cooper Lighting. I think he came from Cooper Lighting. And that was just so weird for me because we were like, we used to get our employees together and go, let's invent something today. Give me your idea. I don't care what it is, and it wasn't that way when I merged into that Supervision.
Well, they were public, right?
Yes. Yeah. We became, which was good for me because this is right before the crash. Yeah. I don't know whether or not Advanced Lighting would have survived the 2008 crash. This is 2006. And so we became Nexus Lighting. And in that time, I knew that all they were was me a little bit bigger. And they didn't do everything. I think we did things better than they did. And they may have a different opinion, but I think we did things, we did really well. And they didn't do them as well, in my opinion. Yeah. So I'm like, where are we going? So I had a guy, a friend of mine that I've known since he came into this country. And he was a lighting guy, but he came to the United States with $400 in his pocket in a room. Yeah. And he patented a bunch of white light technology on driving an LED a certain way, and it's above my pay grade. but he did downlighting, but in a big way and pretty economical for those times. So I kept on saying to the president of Nexus, he'd come see us. Hey, we got to go stop by, see my friend. I don't have time. I don't have time. So I kind of planned this. I said to my friend, you have everything ready. I'm just going to be dropping something off, but I'll invite the president of the company in and and put us in a conference room with these lights on the table.
Yeah.
And we went in there, and I just said, "Oh, I'm just dropping out something. He was going to say hi real quick." And he kept looking at these lights. He goes, "What's this?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's just white light technology. It's actually pretty cool, but you're not interested in it. You told me you weren't interested in it." He's like, "What do you mean we're not interested in this?" I said, "Well, that's kind of what I said to myself, but I'm new to this, and you just basically never had time." "Well, what can we do? How can we?" I said, "Well, he's coming in a minute." So we start talking. We ended up buying his company. He was a small company. We ended up buying his company. It's public. I think maybe $6 million with some royalties in the back end, and I was quite proud of that because it was just a simple, no academic kid that now I'm Disneyland and all these different places, and now I'm acquiring a company, and I didn't
That's
get anything
cool.
for it, but I thought my stock would go up, and so we did do that, and then 2008 happened, and I mean it was crazy. I mean I was on a really high salary. From what I understand, I was the highest salary, even higher than the president of the company.
Oof.
Um, yeah, I did really well, but they 2008 happened and everything had to shrink, and so they basically gave up the lease on the building that I had a 5-year lease because I didn't want them to move and protect my employees. So I had a 5-year lease on the building that I owned in Sauk Center at a really good lease amount too, more like cities, not rural leases, right? So I had it was big money, and this is like a year and a half into the merger, so I still had 2 or 3.5 years left. And I said, "Well, but you owe me lease." "Well, times are tough, and you're a shareholder. You should care." I said, "I do care about it, but I'm also a big shareholder myself, and I also you owe me, I don't know, $500,000-600,000." "Well, we can't do that." I said, "Well, okay, you're gonna hear from my attorneys." And this was all gentlemanly. It wasn't like an evil thing. We're still friendly today, but and so we got on a conference call, and their attorney said, um, "I don't know what we're doing here," and I go, "I don't know either. I mean, I got a contract. You owe me X rent, and if you're moving, that's not my problem." And well, this is the president said we need to figure out something to make this go away, and their attorney says, "Remember we laughed that he was using Dorsey Whitney, such a large firm, on a small merger?" And Mike Bauer goes, "Yeah. Well, this is why. Because guess what? This thing's so lock solid. We can't get out of this. Pay him."
Wow.
So, so I ended up taking it in stock because I didn't have the cash,
Oh
and
boy.
I sold it as quick as I could. But I did all right. I mean, I was super happy, and everybody did laugh at me why I spent so much money in a law firm instead of using somebody less expensive. But that paid off.
It
it,
worked
it
out,
did.
yeah. The one
Yeah.
time paying lots of legal fees made you happy. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
could tell
And
you the flip side of that 10 times, unfortunately.
I know. I remember we talked a little bit about
Yeah.
some other situations when you were here,
Yeah.
and I had those happen to me too. And it's, you know
Yep.
what? I think, like we talked about, an entrepreneur. This is how we know we're entrepreneurs. We pick our britches back up, man, and we just get back at it and get to work.
Yep. It's it's a weird life. I don't think it's for everybody, that's for sure. Like I know a lot of people who call themselves entrepreneurs and they're really businessmen, like, or business women. They're not entrepreneurs. Like entrepreneurs, it's a bit of a disease. Like we don't know when to stop. We're too dumb to quit, you know.
When I was a flight attendant before any of this happened, I my mind would go at night. I'd hop in my car. I'm not kidding you. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I drive around industrial parks and read every sign of the building and go, wonder what they do.
Yeah.
I wonder how they got here. I
Yeah.
wonder. how does this happen? I want to own one of these one day.
Crazy
And I just
curiosity.
think it was built into me somehow. And I just
Yeah.
still think that way.
Yeah. No, it's, it's some days it's an amazing thing. Some days you're just like, like coming out of COVID, I've had so many friends in the industry who work for large companies and were collecting big fat paychecks all the way through COVID, after COVID, since COVID. And, I have a small business. For me, it's not been that easy. It's been a real struggle at times. And you put your house on the line, you put your own finances into it, like, deplete the hell out of your bank account and hope it works and that kind of stuff. But when it works great. When it doesn't work, it can pretty much gut you. So
And the key thing for me is I have to remind myself that it worked great and it works great. And
yeah,
sometimes doesn't. But remember that it's only temporary, because
yeah,
this is what happened when we were talking about where I went. So I sold a company, and I remember I've got well over millions of dollars in my bank account at the
yeah,
time, and I owned millions of dollars of stock, and I'm all alone. At that
yeah.
point, I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't even have a place to go to work anymore. And I called
You
my
had a
mom up,
nice
and
house on the lake, though.
I did. Yeah, I did.
And jet
That was a
skis and boats, and I remember
I
seeing your
did.
pictures all the time on Facebook and stuff. And I'm like, damn it, this guy has a life. Jesus.
Yeah, well,
Some great view pictures, off your
in a
back
small
deck or whatever
town,
it
though.
was.
Yeah, small
Yeah.
town with no food. Well, so I remember I had no place to go, and I called my mom up crying in downtown Minneapolis at the basement of the ground floor of the big skyscraper where Dorsey Whitney was, and just signed the paperwork, and I'm crying, and my mom says, "What's wrong, Paul? You just had everything you dreamed of." And I said, "Well, Mom," I said, "I don't have anywhere to go, anybody to share it with."
Yeah.
And I said, "I think I like the chase better." And that's right then when I realized it's not the destination, it's the journey. And so
Hell yeah.
I try to remember even when I'm going through a hard time in my current company, listen, you had these even worse in advanced lighting. This is fun. Come on, Paul, this is fun. And and you try to pick yourself up a little bit and
That's what we
realize
do.
that
We're
if
problem solvers. If you
yeah,
have no
exactly.
problems, you get bored and you go out and buy sports cars and houses on the water and stuff. Like I'm the same way.
I
If I have
I did
nothing to
that.
do, I do bad stuff. I do very hurtful stuff to myself.
Oh God,
So,
I had the Bentleys, the
yeah.
Porsches, the
Yeah.
Vipers, and the house was actually I built that. I mean, designed and built it, so I actually had a lot of shitload of equity in that. But
Yeah.
um, so now I'm going, okay, well, I can take some time off. I did this for 17 years, take some time, and
So
and
this
I
is
did
what year is
that in
this?
2006. Well, actually, in 2006, I was still an employee of the company, so I actually had a place to go. The in 2008, when they said we gotta eliminate some positions, and I understood, and you're one of the highest, so we're doing that and switching all the manufacturing to Florida, bringing it down to supervision. And that's when the whole rental lease thing came up. That's when I really felt I had nowhere to go, because I really just sat at home, drank beer, and went out on the beautiful lake and did the nice stuff, but spent a lot money. And
Yeah.
then I went to making nothing.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, nothing. I
spending,
mean, I had a
probably
lot of
spending
money.
more too, because now you had time
uh
and
and
no income.
I took a
Before you had
trip out to
income and
see
no
Gordon
time, and now you had
when
time and no
Jazz got
income.
yeah when Jazz got married. Jazz,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I flew out there with a girlfriend, man. I mean, I bet I blew 20 grand that those 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we had fun, but it just,
Yeah.
yeah, just pouring out money. And then the market wasn't good, because I was still a major shareholder, and I couldn't sell shares, but only at certain points, because I'd be insider trader, and I knew nothing about that. And so I lost a lot. I lost 60% of my net worth in like 3 days because of the
Wow.
market, and there's not much I could do. But so I took 8 years off, and I tried to focus on myself, and was was just pouring out money, and ended up being to the point where I'm like, I need a job, like any job. I'm
Yeah.
broke, and
Yeah.
and 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 I'd written the book, and the book was doing really well, but I didn't like the attention. I
Well,
I
tell me about
struggled
that.
as a kid.
Tell me about the book. Tell me, so, first of all, why? Because, most people learn quickly that you don't get rich from writing a book or selling a book, because most of them, I don't remember the stats, but the statistics are so bad, like 90 something percent of books don't sell more than 500 copies or whatever it is. um, but you have an incredible story. I mean, not just the story of success, the story of starting with nothing and getting somewhere. Like, these are all really great stories, and you have them all built in. But then you also have the survivor story, which is
Yeah,
probably the biggest of them all, right? So,
I think it's all blends into each other of just, you can get knocked down, but it's how you get back up. And the, I'll tell you again, this is so cool because you're making me realize something about myself that I didn't by you saying we just problem solve, we figure that out. You're reminding me at least. So I was dating the girl that I took to the Peabody Hotel where we met Christian. That
yeah,
same girl, I dated her for 9 years, and I remember she was a server at Morton's, but she made like 100 grand a year. I mean, it was crazy money. And she said that she gets these high up people, Carl Polat, who he's dead now, but his family owns the Twins, and uh, big banker, owned a lot of stuff. And him in with his security guards, he had bodyguards, looked like CIA people. And she'd tell me these stories, professional athletes. And there's one guy by the name of Tom Gigax, and I knew the guy's name because my cousin was kind of a political lawyer, and he was a lawyer for Ted Kennedy. You know how they always have people draft their bills. He was one of those people. Then he moved
yeah.
back to Minnesota, and he was like a nonprofit lawyer. Like I don't know what, but he said he played tennis with this older guy that was in incredible shape, like just ripped, named Tom Gigax, and he owned all the businesses called Tires Plus. I don't know if they
Oof.
have them down in Florida,
Yeah, yeah, of
but
course.
he's so I researched the guy, and he was really kind of a guru, like a Zen guy, like 6'6", but like so ripped and like meditated, and he did all these cool things. And I'm like, I want to be like this guy. And so I read a book he wrote, and I can't remember the name of it. But he said that he, at a point in his life, like his company was doing a few $100 million a year, but he was barely making it. Like no profit, trouble making payrolls. He was going through a divorce, and he ended up with cancer. And there's my hook. There's my link in. Because he said he sat down and called the president or the founder of Best Buy, Dick Schultze, I think his name was, and another Minnesotan, right? So he said, "Hey, I need help. I need to, coach me here." And what ended up happening was Dick said, "If I do this, you pay it forward."
Hmm.
So I read the book. Chrissy was telling me, my girlfriend, that he was coming in to Morton's or somewhere, whatever. I basically called him out. I said, "Hey man, I'm your pay it forward, and my name is Paul Streitz." He goes, "Do you know Tommy Streitz?" I said, "Yeah, it's my cousin." "All right, what's your number? I'll have my assistant call you." Next day, I get a call. I now got coaching from a guy that coached Al Gore, a guy that worked with Lee Iacocca. I mean, this is like, wow. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But so I went to his house in Minneapolis, fast forward to when we had a meeting. And I sit there, and this guy's ripped. I mean, he's like 6'6" and ripped and 60 years old probably at the time. And I'm like, wow, man. And he says, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to breathe." I said, "Okay, I am breathing." I totally didn't get it. I was like
Yeah.
40. And he goes, "No, we're gonna breathe. What I want you to do is sit with me, get your posture." And we breathe for like 5 minutes. He says, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel okay. Here's my financials." And no, tell me about your life. And I go, "Well, what do you want to know?" He goes, "Anything you want to tell me." I don't know what the hell I said. He says, "Great, we're done for the day." And it was like an hour.
What the
I go, "But
hell?
don't you want to look at my financials?" He goes, "Well, maybe next time. See you next week." But he says, "I want you to do something. I want you to journal something about your life from the last whenever you can think of in your childhood, anytime. And again, that now is pressing on my academic. I'm not a writer. I'm not this. He says, I don't care. It's only between you and I. So I wrote a story down. Get there, show him the story. We talk a lot about it. And again, we had to breathe first and meditate. And at the end of it, he goes, great. Okay, next week, I want to see the next story. And I said, well, what about the financials? And he's like, no, no, we'll get to it. Don't worry about it. This happened like 6 times. And I go, listen, Tom, I said, I really need help in my business. He says, what you're not seeing is how much help you're helping yourself. I said, what are you talking about? Well, he said, this story, this story, this story, this story. You see the pattern? You see what the universe is trying to tell you? And you're so worried about what's going on that you're not seeing
That's
the
wild.
help the universe is giving you. And it was true. And so I kept going. I ended up writing, I think, 29 stories. And we never did look at my financials.
That's
But he told
wild.
me, he says, you can't be a better boss unless you're a better you. And when you become better at being you, you'll be way better at all that other stuff. And he said, I said, is this what Richard Schultz did for you? He says, yeah. He says, he made me look really long and hard at myself and figured out
Wow.
that, just because you have employee problems or this problem or financial problems, it's all about you.
Yeah.
You are the leader of your company. You have to be the best you can be. And that was a really good lesson. So bottom line is I ended up having a book and I had to get it edited twice
Hang
because
on a sec though.
I
Did
wasn't a,
did he ever invest in you or get become part of your business? Or I mean, the advice was
I
invaluable. Like you
never,
couldn't
I
put a
never
price
asked
on
him
it.
to, I never asked him to invest. We never had investors
Oh,
at
you
my
were asking
company.
for advice.
Yeah, it was just I needed to be a better, well, at the end of the day, I needed to be a better me, but I just thought that, what can I do to make my company better? But he gave me exactly what I needed. We ended
Yeah.
up becoming partners in a business. We bought the rights when I was a flight attendant. I used to remember we were the airline for the Oprah Winfrey show, and we carried her a lot. And she was flying to Amarillo, Texas during a big in the mid '90s during a beef lawsuit she had. A guest she had on her show convinced her that beef was bad. This is mad cow disease and big cattle ranching and feed lots and she said I'll never eat a hamburger again on her show. And the Texas Cattlemen Association sued her for saying that and sued Howard Lyman,
Oh,
and
wow.
who's very
Jeez.
famous for this, by the way. He's very famous. He's a third generation major cattle rancher, went vegan. And I remember having them on the airplane all the time. And so Tom told me he met Howard Lyman. I met that guy. I know what you're talking about. Well, he wrote a book. He goes, let's buy the rights and make a movie. I said, okay. So we partnered in something we called Mad Cowboy Productions. And I was in charge of trying to find agents and writers. And I found a writer that wrote A River Runs Through It, I think. Yeah, River Runs Through It. And I started dating an, a girl in LA, and she got me hooked up with all these
Oh, I remember
producers.
that.
And
I remember when you were doing all that. Yeah.
yeah, and we ended up, we had a great thing. But Howard had, the writer of his book was a personal friend, and because there's a book called Mad Cowboy, and he did not like the story. He didn't like the way we went with it, which his way would have been super boring, and we had to do some things to make it. I mean, it was cool in itself, but we just never got it funded. But we had
Yeah.
huge actors signed to it. It just
Wow.
never got funded, and.
Yeah.
But so Tom and I were in business together. We're still friends. And in
S-
that process, I became friends with Bobby Kennedy Jr. Used to go skiing with them all the time. And
Wow.
yeah, we went skiing like 5 different times in Deer Valley, Utah. He had this thing called the Celebrity Ski Fest. He invited me out and he paid for everything. It was so gracious and it was fun. And that was
So
kind of like from '09 to 13.
back to the book. So, through this guy who you met, this big entrepreneur, successful guy, he basically forced you to write a few chapters or some stories anyways. And those
Yeah.
stories, I'm guessing, led into what became the book.
Yeah. I guess what I left out was after the sixth time, I had 6 stories and I'm like, whatever. and he told me the whole universe. He says, no, you have 6 chapters to your book. I said, I'm not writing a book. What are you talking about? He says, yeah, you are. He says, I don't care if it ever gets published, but you're writing your book. You're writing your guide, and you're going to read through these stories when you're done, however many you do, and you're going to know exactly what you need to do in life.
Huh.
And he was so right. I'm not kidding you. There was so many instances from when I was a child to teenager, because to this day I'm super insecure. The book started doing really well, and I was invited on talk shows and TV shows, and I would feel like I was going to faint, and people say it's stage fright. Well, I got to the point where I was fainting. I mean, it wasn't like,
Wow.
I don't see too many people faint on stage. I got up and started speaking for people and paid, and I was so nervous, and I figured it out that I didn't feel like I deserved it, and I wanted to give it away, and I just
Imposter
like
syndrome.
yeah, I just
That's
like,
what
I
they
can't
call
do this.
that.
I have to give it away.
They
But
call
we
that
sold thousands of
imposter
books.
syndrome. It's a pretty
Yeah.
common thing, by the way. Like people just feeling I'm not worthy, like I don't deserve this success I'm having, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not good enough, whatever it is. But yeah. So what about the name Blue Collar Buddha? Where'd that come from?
Well, it was funny. I was going to call it the Naked CEO. There's a lot of cool chapters in there that anybody can relate to, but a lot of it's business, and I basically I've always imagined you peeling the onion back, the onion, and you're getting to the core of what we think about at night when we put our head on a pillow, what worries us. But right before that was a book had been claimed called The Naked CEO. So I'm like, damn it, it's not going to work. So
Why
then
Naked
my one,
CEO?
because you're kind of peeling the onion,
I
you're
see. I get it.
you're taking everything, you're looking under the hood kind of thing,
I get it. Yeah.
and yeah, and it probably wasn't a great name, and I don't know that Blue Collar Buddha was a good name either, but it worked. I grew up blue collar, and I'm giving life wisdoms, if you will, of trials and tribulations of my life, and
Yeah.
so to me, blue collar is where I grew up. And Buddha, it's not really a spiritual book. It can be a little bit universally, but it's just Buddha to me was always the wisdom, wise, and I don't even know if that was accurate, but I thought that worked, so I made it
Yeah.
blue collar Buddha.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Buddha to me said that there was some sort of a religious sort of tone to it or something. But is it available in audiobook too?
I think so. No, no, it's a Kindle and
Yeah.
paperback,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're short. Here's the thing. I've read maybe 4 books in my entire life, and none of them were in school. I cheated my way through that. They're
Me too.
short chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're short chapters, and I did that on purpose. So there might be only 2 or 3 pages for a whole chapter, and they're engaging. I mean, I was in business with the cartel, didn't know it. I was in Russia, in a Russian hospital. I got military robbed in Brazil. That's all in there. I mean, there's some crazy shit in there,
Yeah.
but they read really quick. And then at the end of each chapter, I ask very important questions about, this is what I did. What would you do? Would you handle this differently? So they're provoking yourself to think about your life and your trials and tribulations or fun things. Did you necessarily do it the way you would, if looking back, would you have done something differently? So
Well,
that's
that
kind of fun.
that's a good statement because I was actually going to ask you, looking back at writing this book, are there any chapters you'd change? Are there lessons in there that you might change or tweak or edit a little bit or?
There's a group of chapters or a section called Love and Money. And I definitely realized that I I struggled with identity a little bit when we talk about the cars, the money, you have the money, you have this and you have that, and misidentifying why is somebody with me. And there's at least one relationship in there that was definitely more financial, meaning I don't know whether she would date me the way I am today, but I don't think she would have dated me before I had money. And
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of money now, but I'm
that's
saying
sad.
the old Paul didn't know who he was. The new Paul knows who he is, and he doesn't have a lot of money. He's doing okay. Would she date that person? But I think, the bottom line is I learned some valuable lessons in relationships. I've learned some valuable lessons on partnerships and trust, and it's not that I'm less trusting, but I have so much more experience now, and going, you can't just give a company uh a part of a company to somebody, they have to pay something for it. People, like weight loss programs, if it's given it to you for free, you don't even do it. But if you pay for it, you're probably going to go work out for a little
Totally
bit
true.
anyways.
Yeah, totally true.
And
Skin in the
it's
game.
so
It's
yeah, those are little lessons I've learned. And to really not sweat, what is it? Don't sweat the small stuff. Just let it go.
yeah.
It's going to get better. It's you're having a hard time now, but have some faith, work hard, believe in yourself, and it just always be positive.
Did anything big come from the book? Like did you get speaking engagements, or like you said you got invited to be on television and to be interviewed and all that stuff, but like were there any business spin-offs that came because of the book? Opportunities?
Yeah, the speaking thing was becoming big, and I really hated it.
Really?
Maybe yeah, the stage fright. One of the things that I learned to overcome that a little bit, but the people that invited me thought I was nuts. I would go in before I was supposed to go on stage and speak, and usually they were like anywhere from 10 people to maybe 100 people. I would go and I would come in through the where everybody's seated and introduce myself to every single person and say thank you for coming.
Ah, they're
I
not
can't wait
strangers
to,
anymore.
and that helped me, but I still felt really weird. I just
Yeah.
felt like who am I to, like, you said it best, not worthy kind of thing, and imposter, and I said I'd rather give it away. I didn't write this book to make money. I wrote this book to help people that were like me,
Yeah.
and and so I was invited on a Dr. Phil show. If I had gotten that, that would have been about 100,000 books. But it was one of those where they have a segment that could go one way or the other. And so you're in the audience. I don't know if you ever watched Dr. Phil show.
No.
Um, so they're talking to somebody maybe had some trials and tribulations in life or relationship issues. I mean, I covered a few, or cancer. Well, we just happen to have an expert on cancer who wrote a book called Blue Collar Buddha, and they would pan to me, and maybe I have a 3 minute
Oh
interaction,
yeah. Yeah, cool
and
opportunity.
it ended up getting canceled. It didn't ever go all the way, but everybody tells me in the author world that's 100,000 books. And I negotiated a deal with the publisher because I said, why would I have a publisher when I'm nobody famous? They're not going to be able to help me. So I started my own publishing company, and so I made all the profits.
Hmm.
So, like I did, Amazon was, the biggest seller. So let's say the book was, I don't know, $20. Amazon only got like five of it. I got 15 of it. So can you imagine if I sold 100,000 books?
Wow.
Yeah, it would have
Yeah.
been some, but I did,
Real money.
never happened. Yeah, real
Yeah.
money. It never went that far, but I sold thousands of books. I did pretty
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. I don't even think about it anymore. I don't even own a copy of it,
Yeah.
but,
I
it's
think
fun.
I'm gonna put it on my Kindle. I'm gonna check it out because I just think I relate to so many of your stories, and I mean the funny thing is like public speaking kills me. Like I am nervous for 2 days before it. I get a stomach ache. I'm sweating, shaking. And for the first, like, I just had to do it a few weeks ago. There's a software company that I'm actually a customer of, and I just love the product. And so I've become sort of just a power user of their product. And they asked me to come. They were doing their big launch. I was using their beta product. They invited me to their launch thing in Miami, and it was for like 300 people that
Ugh.
were billionaires, tech entrepreneurs, you know, gazillionaires. Like the founder of Shutterstock was there. Like a bunch of founders of these really big tech companies and stuff were there, and I had to speak. And, so I was trying not to psych myself up. I was like, this is nothing. These people don't know me and all this stuff. But the first few words that came out were like, like I didn't know what I was saying. But after the first sentence or two, I go with it at that point, and it's easy, and then you can't shut me up. But I always wanted to be a public speaker as part of my thing. So that means I always wanted to maybe write a book, not because I think I can make money selling it, but because it legitimizes you as a public speaker, right? Like it's something that you kind of need to validate yourself, right? But here's the crazy thing. I grew up a singer in a rock band and would sing at the center of the front of the stage to 1,000 people, and I was never nervous. And yet, have me go up there and talk about a subject that I know a lot about, and all of a sudden I'm like, shitting myself.
It's so true. I mean, you look at a lot of famous people, they have a really hard time doing talk shows, but they are great at acting and they can go accept an award and no problem. But when it's getting personal like that, it's a little harder.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that we just had that moment when I said, if you start talking about things you're a little nervous of, they'll say, many people say, me too. I mean,
yeah,
you're basically saying, and I remember you in the industry when I was trying to crack in the entertainment world. I mean, you were, Martin, I mean,
yeah.
huge. And I'm like, that guy seems really cool. I'd like to know him.
I was.
And you were, I mean, is it? No.
yeah, exactly.
But but we don't always view ourselves the way other people view us.
Right.
And that is another thing to remember.
Well, usually the opposite way that most people think. Like most people would think you're an arrogant prick and I'm an arrogant prick. But actually, we're both probably pretty insecure, and we both think pretty poorly of ourselves. Like we're our biggest critic, our biggest enemy. We're the people who beat ourselves up the most. When other people are praising us, we're going, no, I'm shit. I haven't accomplished anything,
So true.
It's
so
amazing.
True.
But it's amazing because people probably think you're just an arrogant asshole, and me too. And I'm the opposite of that. I'm literally the opposite of that.
And I'll tell you what I've learned in my time with Tom and since Tom Gigax and the book and just life in general, if I have an approach that I really, truly just want to help a human being, we have customers that call us up because we haven't talked about what I do now, but customers that call us up and I really can help them. I really care and I really want to help them. Sometimes I have to tell them, I don't want your business. I'll help you with someone else so they can really believe me, or go investigate others and come back to me if we're still worthy. And really, the more I give, the more I get back. And it never would have thought that, ever would have thought that, but it's true. The more I help out, tomorrow I'm going to see a great customer of mine, become great friends. I just gave him 13 lights for free, but he also bought six of another light that's like 10 times the cost. I gave him some ones that we discontinued, but he still has them, and they've expired. They're like 8 years old. I said, well, I'll give you some. We still have some on the shelves. They're brand new. We took them out of the rotation, and oh no, I'll buy them. I said, you don't have to buy them. You give me so much business, I'll just bring them out. It's those little things. I'm going out there tomorrow to take a lot of meter readings on wavelength and all of that in his barns, and to make sure we have the right recipe for the animals, which is kind of what I do now. And we do that for free. I mean, we do that because we care.
So I want to get into that, what you're doing now. So, I mean, another neat thing about you is that you've had like 5 different careers or whatever, right? So, and I mean, there's a thread between a lot of the last ones, lighting, LED, etc. But, so, tell us a little bit about, A, what you're doing, and B, how the hell you came up with this one.
Well, what happened was, as I mentioned, I was now trying to make a movie, had a place in LA, had a place in Destin, Florida, and of course, Minnesota on the lake, and I'm burning cash like crazy. And the movie, had it went through, I think I would have had a whole different path. Because I figured out one thing. As a producer of a movie, you're like a general contractor of a house. You're putting everything together. And I think that I was pretty good at that. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. So I started running out of money. I said, well, what do I know? I know lighting. I'm going to start a lighting company.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to do commercial lighting. I thought pretty easy segue to get into. Yes, it's really polluted with competition. But, I know how to run things efficiently. I think I can make it work. But you know where I'm at because you were here. Literally within 10 miles, there's probably 300 agricultural farms of animal, either dairy, poultry, or swine, within 10-mile radius here. And so all these electricians were saying, but can you light up this turkey barn? Can you light up this dairy barn? Can you light up this hog farm? I'm like, I don't know. So I started doing research on it, and there is a science to the wavelength of light we give certain types of production. There's research that supports long day lighting in dairy. You can gain 8% in milk production, which is huge.
Yeah.
Um, in stimulating the hormonal um, of a chicken with red light for a certain amount of time in a certain wavelength, as, along with 2700 Kelvin and all the other type, will stimulate the egg quality and the they might lay one extra egg a month. When you have farms that are laying 20 million eggs a day,
Yeah.
you got a shitload of
That's
birds,
real
and
profit.
extra egg or so a month is huge.
Yeah.
So
So you basically
Bill,
saw an underserved market, that the science was something that you understood quite well, and you did a bit of research on it and went, well, this is no brainer kind of stuff. You already probably knew where to get the stuff manufactured.
yeah, I didn't want to be a man. I wanted to be a manufacturer, but I mean, let's face it. I'm 60 years old today, so or not.
Yeah.
It's not my birthday today, but I'm 60 years
Yeah.
old, and then I don't know, it's in my mid 50s or whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to do all that. Although, ironically, I'm looking at doing it right now, but
Yeah.
because Made in USA thinks it's a big deal. If we can and compete, we will. But yeah, I knew where to get stuff made. All that stuff I'd learned in prior life, and so yeah, it was easy. I did call Bill, who was our CTO, all the way up to the merger of Nexus with Advanced Lighting. I said, "You want to do it again?" He said, "Heck yeah." He just happened to be in between projects. So Bill is super like famous in the whole fixture design, especially optics and efficiency. And we have fixtures that are 190 lumens per watt. And our competition just takes an LED fixture that's 100 lumens per watt, sticks a frosted bulb on it, and go, here you go.
Yeah.
And flicker is extremely important. Birds see flicker above 120 hertz. And
God, I never
we,
would have known that. And I
oh,
know a
it's
little bit about
huge.
this stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
never would
so
have known
bottom
that.
line is Bill hopped on board, and we took some time. It took us some time to penetrate the market. Again, how do I get into the market? Well, I found one of the biggest players and found out where they hang out and where they drink, and it's the backdoor approach, but it worked and it's done
Yeah.
really well. And now we're expanding, and we got a few new products coming out, and are we there yet? No, but like I said, and I remind myself during the days that are struggling, this is the journey, man. It's fun. These
Yeah.
challenges are fun. This is what make me who I am, and
Yeah.
and it keeps me going.
Yeah. I mean, that
But that's
journey
called Lumen
stuff,
hyphen pros.
Lumen-Pros.
Yes.
Okay. So, I know a little bit about that company, and have definitely watched what you're doing and stuff. And I commend you, again, just reinventing yourself every time. Like, you get kicked into the dirt and you just go, well, you know what? I'm going to go find something else to do. And this stuff is pretty easy. I mean, it's funny because everyone thinks, oh, these young kids now coming out with all this technology and stuff, and they're going to run circles around me because they're so much smarter, and they were born with iPhones, and they were born with computers and all this stuff I didn't have, and they're so much further ahead. But you know what? They don't have what we have. People who were born in the 60s, we're a bunch of freaking stubborn old fucks, and you can't kick us and keep us down. You can't stop us from doing things. You can't outwork us. We work harder than, people aren't willing to do the things that we've done to get where we've gotten. And, at the end of the day, that's just the reality. That's a generational thing. And I tell it to my son all the time. I'm like, hey, you got to keep up with the old guys, because, we may seem slow, but we're willing to do some stuff that you might surprise you.
I think the hardest thing for us older people, and then, we're both entrepreneurs, so we figure it out. But the difference is, so we started a lighting company, and I need to get to my customer. Where a 20-year-old is going to go, okay, no problem, I can do all that. He's going to sit all day long and tweet or create TikToks and Instagrams about how great his company is, and that's his marketing, and it somehow gets to the customer. Well, we're
Yeah.
still knocking on doors and taking them out to dinner. But
yeah, but
you know,
your customers respond to the knock on the door and the taking them to dinner. His customers
yeah,
might respond to the TikToks and
yeah,
Instagram things and whatever. So different business and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
people say it all the time, like I see guys like Gary V and these guys say it all the time, I'd love to be starting a business right now because you can run circles around a lot of these young people right now because, they have a different way of doing things. And I'm not putting them down. We
No,
raised these
not at
kids to
all.
be that way. We put them in bubbles
Yeah.
and we raised them to be a certain way and we've coddled them and maybe over coddled them and stuff. And, it's just a whole different thing. Like you and I had to hustle to get anywhere. Nowadays there's so much opportunity and there's so many different things they can do. Everybody can be a YouTube phenom and make millions of dollars making YouTube videos or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's just a different world,
But
but,
we're still having fun in it. I mean, like, we circle back to, I can't wait. I really can't wait to go to LDI and, the only difference is, you still look the same, but I put on a few pounds, which I
oh,
will
I don't look
lose.
the
I
same.
will,
Yeah.
but my hair's gotten grayer and at least I
I'm
still
with
have
you.
some.
I'm with you.
And, but you know what? I remember Martin Lewis Long.
Yeah.
We were at LDI and we were out to like 4 or 5 in the morning and, just eating breakfast, at the MGM diner and drunk as shit. And, I can't wait to see those people again because there's so many memories.
Most of them are still
Carl
doing
and
it. Most of them are still doing it. But the thing is, like 11 o'clock at night, usually I'll be at the bar with some people and I'll be like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Boom. I'm in my room, sound
yeah,
asleep by 11:15. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I just don't do
no
it
more,
anymore.
no more expense account at the
It's not even
going
that.
across the whatever those strip clubs and
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that
who was
too.
it? Somebody I remember had a really bad night at a strip club with like 5 grand on the card or something like that.
Oh, it was more than
Was
five
that you?
grand. Yeah, it was more than
Oh,
five
okay.
grand. It was me and Eric Loader.
Oh,
Me and Eric Loader got to split the check at the end of the night, and neither one of us
oh
knew
my
how
God.
much the check was until it came and we signed it. And I was like, "What?" I mean, I don't even want to
Yeah,
mention the amount. It's so sickening. and
yeah.
and so I was my own company. Eric had to go and explain that to his boss. You know,
Oh,
and it was not good. I mean, it was a
yeah.
tough one for him. But yeah, I
We've had a
mean,
lot of fun, Marcel, man. A lot
oh
of
hell
fun.
yeah. And I'm still having fun. It's just different fun,
Yes.
It's like
Yeah, exactly.
the things that used to be fun sitting, like I can only do the bar at night at LDI to a certain point where it's the same stories with the same people drinking insane amounts of alcohol, and I can't do it anymore. Like, I
Yeah.
hate to say it, but for me now, a heavy night of drinking is like maybe 3 glasses of wine. Usually I stop at
Well, I
two,
know
but
that.
yeah,
When you stop by, you're like, man, I barely even have a drink nowadays, and I'm
yeah,
like, that's okay. And
yeah.
you still had a long ways to drive. I only had a few blocks,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
it was
no, we
fun.
went to we had to get to a hotel, but yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, it's this is all just a stage of life, right? And I'm enjoying
Yeah.
the hell out of it. Like I turned 60 this year and I'm
Brother,
not looking forward to that, but
just a number.
it's just another thing, right? Like I'd rather turn 60 than not turn 60. I know a lot of
There
people who
you
didn't
go.
turn 60,
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's a thing. But, so, I mean, it's amazing seeing you.
Yeah. I'm gonna get down there. I promise. But be most likely you're going. Are you spending the whole summer in Canada?
Yeah, I'll be going early June. My
Are you?
birthday's June 8th, so I want to get there before my birthday so that I can
Uh,
celebrate with my
you're
family.
you're near Calgary, right?
Yeah, just like an hour outside of Calgary in the mountains.
So we've got a potential new customer that is near Calgary as well,
Oh,
and
he's probably between Calgary and me. There's loads of
there must
farms
be.
around there.
Yeah, and these things take time in my world, so it probably won't be the summer. Maybe I'll end up there.
That'd be
Come see you.
amazing. Come out and spend a few days and hang out, and we'll do some fun stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, go to sleep at 9 o'clock every night like old people do. But
and wake up at
I'll have a
6
few
a.m.
drinks with you.
for
Six.
breakfast.
I wish I could sleep till 6 most days. Some days it's 4. I mean, I just get up so damn early and I like it. I actually enjoy the mornings. I get a lot done in the mornings. It's sort of me time, you know?
That's my
But
problem. If the few times I do stay up super late, which small town, you saw Whiskey Alley. I took you down that road with six
yeah,
bars.
yeah.
Um, so you get caught up sometimes, even at my age, so two
Oh,
thirty in the
no.
morning. I
I
still get
enjoyed
up
being
at
there with
five,
you.
six. I
I
still get
enjoyed
up at
being
5 or 6 in the morning.
I enjoyed being in that place with you. Everybody knew you. You knew everybody. Like it was just like everybody was busting each other's balls and stuff. I mean, it was that made me miss being in a small town because like here I could go to the
Yeah.
same bar every night for the next 2 weeks and I'd meet all different people. You know, it's just not a small town thing here at all.
I always tell the people that come see me, because I do know everybody in this town, I'm the mayor after dark.
That's funny. That's great.
Yeah,
Well, Paul, I have to move on to other things, as
me
do
too.
you, I'm sure. And but I really, really, really appreciate you doing this. I'm so happy we were able to pull it together.
Yeah, we talked about it, and I just, I forgot about it. And then your producer Sarah
Sarah, yeah.
messaged me, and I was in Fort Myers, ironically, and I forgot to book a time, and then she did the little nudge. I went, oh yeah, okay, okay. And so, yeah, I'm glad we
Yeah.
made it happen.
So to reach you, lumen-pros.com. Go to Amazon, buy the book, Blue Collar Buddha. I'm gonna go put it on
Let's
my
make it a bestseller
Kindle.
again.
I'm gonna put it
It
on my
was a
Kindle.
bestseller.
Was it?
I was number one under the category, because there's a lot of travel in it.
L-
Travel and work
was
life
it was the
experience. That was number
category
one.
lighting guys with one testicle, a bit of a drinking problem, and you know, yeah.
Actually, all that would be correct, except for, we condensing a life into a couple hours. I end up having cancer again exactly a year after the
What?
first time I lost the second testicle. I produce no testosterone. I have to inject it every day. I
Oh no.
can't have kids. It's why I didn't get married. I couldn't have
Oh my
kids, but
God.
so maybe another time we'll talk about that.
So
But yeah,
your
it's
your
great.
body
It's
doesn't
great.
produce any testosterone. Zero.
None, none.
Oh my God. So
Yeah,
you
I've been
inject it and
supplementing.
are you able to get up to a normal level by injecting
Yeah,
it?
oh yeah, I've got testosterone of an 18-year-old.
Oh, okay, cool.
But
Cool.
but I've been doing that since 1990.
Wow, I did not know
Yeah,
that. That is
yeah, since
crazy.
before I knew you. But yeah, and
Yeah.
I nothing to hide. As a matter of fact, if anybody out there knows anybody, has any friends, needs to talk to somebody, especially about testicular cancer, please reach out to me. I do it for a lot of people,
Wow.
all over the world.
Well,
I'm
and it's
here
way
for
more
you, man.
common than people think, you know? I mean, it really is. You know what's funny though?
Yeah,
And I hate to poke fun at anything, but um, I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday and she said, "Who do you have on the podcast this week?" And I said, "Remember Paul from Minnesota?" And she goes, "Oh, the guy with no balls." That was the first thing she remembered about you. And I was
yeah.
like, "What?" And she said, "You don't
And then
remember
it's
that
funny. It's like,
story?" I said,
but
"You know what? I
how does she
didn't
know he
remember."
doesn't have any balls?
Like I didn't
She was
remember, but you had
awesome.
told us the story at the bar there, and she's like, "Oh, the guy with no balls," and I was
Oh
like,
man,
"What?"
I really, really loved you two together. Really
Yeah,
great energy,
she's a
great
good girl.
just the whole back and forth. You guys are great, and I think
Yeah,
you really found a good person there. And I
yeah.
can't
Thank you,
wait to see her
thank you. I
again,
think so too.
and you guys, and
We'll come to
let me just say
Canada.
something about the. Yeah, I will. I'm going to something about the website. We're in the process. That website's like 6 years old. There's a whole other products, and you know how this goes.
Yeah,
You
it's hard.
keep forgetting to do your website. We're actually developing it now. There's somebody working on it. It'll be about 4 weeks. There will be a more in-depth, better website, but I'm apologizing for my appearance again. But the
It's all
website
good.
doesn't look the greatest. But
It's
please
more about
message
how to.
me.
It's how to get in touch with you. You know.
Yeah,
So
info@lumen-pros.com or pstreitz at lumen-pros.com. And again, I really mean that. If you know anybody or anybody out there listening to this that's struggling with maybe testicular cancer, I'm as far as I know and what I was told in 1987, I think 88 or no 89, I was the first person to have this twice in the way I had it. I
that's
literally had
wild.
two primary cancers of testicular. There was no metastasization, nothing. It didn't spread. as if I just drew that lottery ticket twice. And it had never happened before. And they had a lot of meetings with doctors all over the world. I'm very fortunate and lucky that I had it because it taught me a lot in life. But
Yeah.
I'm here to help anybody. Please don't forget to call me.
So the second time, weren't you just like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
what is
Well,
going on?
I told my girlfriend we were at a pilot used to rent this roller skating rink and had these parties called dong and thong parties. The men were supposed to wear speedos, the women in thongs, and I wasn't gonna go there, but I just wore regular shorts, beachy kind of thing, and we would roller skate. And that night I canceled, and my girlfriend went. I said, "Why?" She says, "Why are you canceling?" She was also a flight attendant, and I said, "Because I'm sick again." She goes, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I don't know. I'm sick again." So the next day I flew up to Minnesota, ultrasound. Sure enough, next day, exactly a year later, I'm having the left one taken out.
Oh my God. Wow.
So when people always say, "Come on, grow a pair," or
Yeah, I wish
why
I
won't you do
could.
that? I always say, if I had the balls, I'd do it.
Oh my God. And that's a perfect ending.
Yeah.
See you,
If I
Paul.
had the balls, I'd do it. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
buddy. I look forward to
See ya.
seeing you soon.
Right on, man. Bye.